Welcome back to episode 26 of the Zuriel show, where we'll be talking about digital transformation as a whole, something that we're interested in at Zuriel, opening up the discussion and bringing different thought leaders to get their opinions and the unique perspective of it. Today, we're joined by Mugambi Munyua to discuss embracing digital transformation. Mugambi, introduce yourself to the people, who you are, and what you do.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for that introduction. And I'm honored to be a guest on your show. So thank you once again. So,
Lovely.
yeah, so I work in Safaricom, and Emmanuel just got me while I'm in the middle of a transition to join M-Pesa Africa. And for that, I will be doing service design, which means moving closer to the customer, understanding their needs, and designing services that meet their requirements. So not just confined to M-Pesa in Kenya. However,
Yeah,
we'll be looking towards other African countries. In
very
terms of
exciting
who am
stuff.
I, yeah. Uh, so this is an existential question. I don't know if Emmanuel, you've ever asked
I
yourself
understand.
who you are.
Mm.
However, looking at the podcast and what you've been able to do so far, I think you found your purpose. Have I found mine? Uh, I think I have for
Mm.
now, for this moment. And I usually say when I walk into the room, I am inspiration that is walking into the room.
Mhm.
So that's who am I. I look to inspire people, be it in private enterprise at work and also at home. So I have a
Mm.
private enterprise, Motorcar, and I'm sure we will be talking at it as we talk about digital transformation. Yes, and also some of the works that I've done in my previous life.
Lovely and very inspiring. And I look forward to as well, as you rightfully said, tackling
Thank you.
the necessary. Right.
Okay.
One thing that we like to go into at Zuriel is our guest stories and who they were, and then jump right into the topic of the day.
Okay.
So, a common question that we usually have is, could you describe yourself as a student either in high school or university or both? And is there a change, or if there is, what experiences um, are still valuable to this day that you learned?
So I believe I'm always a student. The
Mm.
universe of knowledge is quite expansive.
Yeah,
And if we were to look at all the books that have been published, you can imagine each and every book holds a specific facet of knowledge. So, am I in a position to read all of them? No. Am I in a position to live everyone's experience? No. However, the attempt to ensure that you're gaining experience, you're learning, constantly learning, be it in school, high school,
yeah,
university, today, always a learner. So one of the things that I've always looked towards, or I've always known is, and it's a common saying that time flies, and that's the bad news. But the good news
mm,
thing, you are the pilot. So I am in control of my destiny. Okay, no matter how it is shaped by the Almighty, we are always in control. Yeah,
yeah,
so that's the biggest takeout from this learning journey. Yeah.
lovely stuff. And I think also that ties into something um, I'd say I've been embracing in terms of whatever position you are in. Patience seems to be the number one thing that holds things together. As much, and I like that you said that the one thing that you learned or embraced was holding yourself together, knowing that anything can happen at any time. Uh, Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. So to
Thank
get
you.
into the topic of the day, digital transformation, I'd like to get your definition of what digital transformation is, or your opinion of what digital transformation is.
Funny that you asked that. I once wrote an article on LinkedIn
Yeah.
looking at what digital transformation is. And we may try to look at it as one particular item. However, I find that digital transformation goes beyond a particular item. Say, for example, a Bluetooth speaker. It's just a Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah. seem to have lost you over there. Mugambi, can you hear me? Seem to have lost him. So I can get him back. Let me just make sure everything is back. Okay. Hey, sorry for that. I don't know what happened. In between, can you be able to hear me at the moment?
Yes, I can hear you, and I think it's part of the new normal, so these things happen.
Yes, it happens to me all the time during the recordings. It's an honest mistake on both sides. Just technology, technology advancements. Right. You're going on about your opinion on digital transformation.
Yes. So digital transformation involves connecting different tools together and techniques.
Yeah.
And out of that is when you get the data, that's when you can call it digital transformation. So let's, for example, look at an ATM. An ATM is a product by banks that allows customers to dispense cash, for example.
Yeah.
However, by itself, it is not a digital transformation project. But now you can now not just withdraw money from your bank account, you can also withdraw it from your M-Pesa wallet. Okay.
Yeah.
So two systems have come together. And now what the banks look at is now the data that these customers prefer to withdraw money from their mobile wallet, for example, more than they would love to withdraw from their bank account. So the bank has to change its ways and say, okay, let me provide the same functionality on a smartphone app. Now, that's digital transformation. So tools and techniques connected together and using the data and insights to bring more value to customers. Yeah, that's my definition.
And I love that we well analyzed, put it into a very simple analogy that I believe this makes the word on its own easy to understand, or the whole space as a whole. I've never heard it being broken down like that. Fascinating.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Now, in your opinion, how has the space of, how have you seen it change in terms of digital transformation as an industry? How has it changed in the last 5 years, if you compare 2015 to 2020, and how businesses are embracing digital transformation as a whole?
Well, I would say between 2015 and 2020, of course, there were a couple of initiatives. Let's look at e-government, trying to provide most of the services online, like applying for a passport, applying for your police clearance certificate. That has been, what can I say? It has been huge. Okay. Now, there were some things on digital transformation that also did not happen quite quickly, like ways of working, working remotely. But then COVID came in as the chief digital officer to push through a lot of the digital transformation initiatives that we're now seeing today. Most shops going online, offices no longer working in their physical locations. People are working from wherever they may be, on the road, in their houses, in their restaurants. So yeah, I think it has been positive, and those changes today, how we live, we watch Netflix, we pay for it with our credit cards, we have home fiber, we're able to access educational content, kids can learn from home. So yes, it is changing the way we live, and I think that's a positive effect of that.
Yes.
However, of course, there are negatives, and like sitting for too long. But then it is for us to again look at what is it that the digital world has provided. We have
Yeah.
smartwatches, for example, that help us to know, hey, it's time to move, and things like that. So we are advancing. Yeah.
That's an interesting point you made on touching on the negatives, because I'm not really looked at in terms of how digital transformation is embracing in a negative way. That's an interesting point of view. I had a guest earlier, and we're talking about maybe you mentioned Netflix. Have you come across the show Social Dilemma?
Social dilemma.
Yes.
Yes, I saw it. I saw it on my title. Yes.
Right. It was one of those controversial, I'd call it controversial documentaries that touched into how social media is negatively, influencing our culture as a whole, not just in Africa, but across the world. And most of the documentary, as he rightfully embraces, was creating a culture where people are more of, due to the instant gratification, everything else that's supposed to be worth working for is put like second place. You're supposed to do some work, but you switch on Netflix and, it's interesting. I've never looked into that in terms of the negatives. So lovely point on that. Right. Now,
Now that you mentioned social dilemma, I think I'll go and
go
watch
ahead.
it. So thank you.
100%. I think you will enjoy it. I genuinely believe that you will enjoy it with the knowledge that you have. I believe you'll be able to interpret it from both sides. Right. Now, I believe
Thank you.
somebody maybe in the audience or maybe listening and is hearing this thing, digital transformation, and they're a startup,
Yeah.
and so where that's being thrown around, that's important. It's important for businesses at each and every level to at least embrace digital transformation at a particular degree based off your industry and of course your size. Now, as a startup that's listening to this, what advice may you give that startup to embrace the world of digital um, with everything going on right now?
Okay, so let's not forget that digital is also, I mean, it's not just about digital tools.
Right.
So it is about how you work. Okay, so
Mm.
to a startup, I'd advise a startup to build, okay, measure quickly, and learn quickly. And as you
Yeah.
build, you don't need to build the perfect item. So build something that, in the simplest form, what they call the minimum viable product.
Yeah.
That can, I mean, it is has a single feature and still solves a problem, hence the MVP term. And then put it out to your customers. Let your customers give you feedback. Don't be embarrassed about your customers. Now, once the customers tell you what it is that you need to improve, probably what you've been solving for is not their biggest problem. They will
Mm.
actually give you suggestions on what you need to do. And then you move to the next step, which is to now incorporate that
Mm.
feedback and immediately start again building from the foundation that you've already laid. So repeat
Mm.
this process as many times until you find that perfect fit that customers are so craving for. So that would be my biggest advice. Change how you work. It doesn't have to be a digital business. It can be a boutique selling clothes. But
Yeah.
if you're selling t-shirts and blouses, you'll come, I mean, when your customers will tell you probably, we need more t-shirts. So you see, in your next batch, as you buy more t-shirts. After some time, they'll tell you, we need more t-shirts that are red in color. You can actually tell this from how they're picking up these items. So
Yeah.
you again go and stock up red t-shirts. So that's how you build, measure, and you learn. Yeah.
Oh, very straightforward and a really great roadmap. Thank you for that. Now, having that in mind, um, what do you say are some misconceptions that you've heard about digital transformation as a whole? maybe one or two misconceptions that you've come across within your time in the space.
Okay. So there's actually a book with this title, What Got You Here Won't Get You There.
Mm,
And the classical failures that we've always discussed, Kodak and Nokia. Yeah.
yes.
They thought that our customers are going to continue staying, say, in the film industry. You will still need to buy films.
Yeah.
And they stuck to their guns. They did not want to change. For Nokia, they thought that their customers will continue to fall in love with the quality, the hardy quality of their phones. But time told a different story. Customers no longer wanted physical photos. They can now save their photos on the cloud. And that killed the film business. And
Mm,
Kodak died with it. For Nokia, they did not open their system to developers. Now, if you have your own developers, you are a big company, say 3,000 employees, you have
yeah.
200 developers there working on your project. Android, on the other hand, has 1 million developers. Yeah, you can imagine the level of ideas that 1 million developers can deliver, and also the speed at which they can deliver
Yeah.
quality items for customers against 200 developers that were for the Symbian network and the Nokia. So it's all about knowing that you need to change, and what got you here won't get you there.
Very insightful. And it's interesting how the space as a whole is changing. Last episode, I was struggling to get my thoughts out on digital transformation. I'm hoping I can create a better impression on this episode. The way I see it is how consumers will continuously get their products and how they will be getting their products. That change in demand has to be matching the chasing, has to be at least trying to form a form of equilibrium in terms of the supply and matching that supply, either with existing technology or improving your services in some way. But the challenge of that is because I feel a lot of the times when I talk about what digital transformation is, I look at the different definitions, and I really like yours, as I said earlier. It's very well simplified. I believe digital transformation, you have to have a 360-degree solution all across the board. Is that something you believe with? Because I've seen certain articles say that it's not really necessary for you to solve it uh, as a whole in terms of changing the entire system. Yeah, I just wanted to get your 2 cents on that.
Okay, so both I will support that you can choose to disrupt and you can choose not to
Yeah.
disrupt. Either way, it's digital transformation, and
Mm,
both strategies will work, uh, but it all varies with the context. Okay,
right.
so uh, if we look at some some classical examples,
Yeah.
there was this. I mean, there was Amazon. Okay, it came in and disrupted the book distribution industry. Yeah, and they've excelled. Now we also have companies that did not come in to disrupt. They came in and said, "Okay, let's partner up, and then we
Yeah.
move forward." So I will take the journey of WhatsApp. Okay, WhatsApp and Facebook. Facebook
Yeah.
decided they're not going to disrupt the messaging market. Okay, so what did they decide to do? They decided to purchase WhatsApp. Okay,
Yeah.
so they did not disrupt it. WhatsApp disrupted, but Facebook did not disrupt the messaging side. So it all works and is dependent on the context. Is the competition too big for you that you cannot be comfortably disrupted, or is the competition uh, as well so embedded in customers' lives that the best way to exist is to partner with them, or
Yeah.
to, yeah, just find a way of working with them? Both sides work, so you can do the 360 degree shift, and you can
Yeah.
still do a 90-degree shift. All
Lo-
will get you to the finish line, but based on the
yeah.
context. Yeah.
Lovely. And thank you for clarifying that as a whole. Now, as we wrap this up and move on from the topic of the day, really learned a lot. Um, Unfortunately, we're reaching nearly the end of the show. So we just have time for two more questions This question as a whole is one we have at the end of almost all our episodes, in which we're looking to, in a way, indirectly advise the youth by talking us through maybe something that you went through within your 20s. Now, the question that we have is, what's one piece of advice that you'd give to your 20-year-old self if you're able to have a conversation with him, or simply give that phone call? What's one piece of advice you'd give to 20-year-old Mugam?
Oh man, if I can have a phone call with my 20-year-old self,
Yeah.
well, I can as well just move back to my 20-year-old self and probably start correcting a few things here and there. Thank you. Good question. So, my 20s, one thing I did was I started a company, Quotient Limited. It was an IT company. However, we did not have the right vision, the right strategy. So yes, I was still also in terms of finances, didn't manage our cash flows well, and at some point the business collapsed. Without a vision, without a strategy, businesses are going to collapse. So,
Yeah.
and of course, there's this notion that employment is not for us. We are youth, we are different. But I can tell you one thing for sure. Sometimes it's just, I mean, let people be. If someone feels comfortable to be employed, let them be. Don't force them into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is tough, and if you're in entrepreneurship, I will say that fortune favors the prepared. Okay, and now my boss extends this. One of my former bosses extends this and says,
Mhm.
"Prepare to be favored." Okay, so
Mm.
if I look at my company, the previous one, the Quotient, uh, I mean, we collapsed before we got favored. However, right now I have a new enterprise and I can see favor walking through the door because I've already laid the foundations that will allow this company to excel. So we have a strategy, we have a vision, we have cash flows, and cash flow is king for a startup. So the best advice I'll give to my 20-year-old self is prepare to be favored. Yeah. So, and we can see Cellulant. I'll give the example of
Yeah.
Cellulant. When they did, uh, today they own, I mean, or they handle most of the mobile banking integrations for all the banks, for most of the banks, for
Yeah.
probably 50% of the 42 banks we have in Kenya. Now, if we go back a few years, you will notice that they were selling ringtones. Now, they already had the
Mm.
technology or understanding of how to integrate telco systems and mobile phones so that then you can get your polyphonic ringtone. But when mobile money came in and banks needed a way to provide services at the tips of their customers, Cellulant were already there, working with telcos. Uh, so they were in a position to as well work with the telcos to do
Yeah.
mobile banking. So yeah, prepare to be favored.
Lovely stuff. And really timeless. I like to describe them as timeless pieces of advice, because someone going through something at a particular level of their life will relate to that, and at least find hope, courage, and inspiration from that, and also to learn something new as a whole. Mugambi, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. As we wrap up, what's one last thing maybe you'd like to say to the audience? And at the end, let the people know how they can get in touch with you via your social handles in terms of following your journey and your story as a whole.
Thank you, Manuel. I'm also honored to be a guest on your show. I mean, it's an interesting discussion that we've had. I love the
Mm,
thought-provoking questions, and I do
thank you.
hope that the audience will find lessons out of this discussion that then they can
Mm,
apply in
yeah,
whatever facets of their life. So, to the audience, never give up. Okay, so always strive to improve and always strive to lift your legs for the next step.
yeah.
That's basically what I'd like to tell you. And yeah, you can
Lovely.
find me on LinkedIn, Mugambi Munyua. And yes, I'm willing to, I mean, mentor some of you who need to be mentored, and for free, by the way. So no, no big deal. And
Lovely.
you're welcome.
thank you for extending your hand of gratitude. I'll make sure that I leave your LinkedIn social in the link below. It's been an absolute pleasure. We finished right on time. Had some slight technical difficulties, but of course, you cannot really guarantee anything when you use the internet. But yeah, thank you for the audience for making it all the way to the end. Be sure to leave a like below your thoughts and share this with your friend if you enjoyed the content. Have a good one. May God bless you all. See you next week.
Cheers. Thank you.